And welcome to Gamers on Game. I've got the great pleasure of speaking with James Pollack. James, thanks so much for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me.
To us, you are another graduating Dynamite, and you come from a great background here, doing virtual and physical art.
Yes.
So kind of similar to what Natalie McKeever was talking about, but with a game, more of a game.
It's definitely coming from the language of video games.
Ah, okay. And it has two components, and it's called Be There.
Be There. Yeah, there's two components. One's physical, one's virtual. The virtual one will be at bethere.io, which is a pretty popular domain in the sort of computing tech realm. And then the physical component will be on display at the MFA exhibition.
And that, again, will be opening April 28th through the 29th, and then May 3rd through 6th with the reception on Friday, May 4th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. Gallery hours are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And again, it's located at the Digital Arts Research Center over by the music department buildings, a music recital hall, and in front of the art buildings. And James, you have built...
I'm building.
You are building an interactive web browser-based multi-user three-dimensional environment.
Yes, it's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. So it's a multi-user.
Yes, it's networked.
Network. So anybody can go.
Yeah, you just you log in through your web browser and you can play, and it's a fully immersive 3D environment. It looks like a video game, sounds like a video game, but you don't have to download or install anything special. It should just work.
Excellent. So this lives on the server.
Yeah, it lives on sort of a virtual server. I'm using a lot of the cloud technologies and Amazon's
cloud.
Yeah, you can purchase computing time there, so I've built it all to be independent of hardware, so it's not going to get stuck at UCSC living on some computer in a closet somewhere when I finish. I can take it with me and run it from anywhere and sort of scale it up or down to meet demand.
Excellent, excellent. Bethere.io, and this is the virtual aspect of Be There.
Yes.
And you go into this three-dimensional place and you get to play, I'm assuming?
Yes, so the way that it works is there are two sort of main play states, and the general sort of thesis of bethere.io is that time spent in other souls is the only way to create yourself. So that sort of happens in two stages in the game. One where you are sort of playing a gardener, a caretaker of this physical space where you can attach sculptural 3D pipe kind of elements that you've acquired from other players. So that's one state, is that state of placing those sort of sculptures that you've acquired, and then the other state is when you're actually acquiring them, and that's sort of the more playful state. That is when you sort of cast your consciousness out into a little creature and crawl along the length of one of these 3D pipes to try to acquire it, to add it to the memory that you can use to construct your personal space.
And will I be able to go into your personal space?
You won't. They're all separated. So it's a huge multi-user world, but your only interaction with other players actually comes in the acquisition of these patterns which have been left behind by other players.
Ah, and so how do I make my sculpture?
So the way that you make it is that your creature is sort of propelled along the length of one of these pipes, and you will use your mouse, your cursor, to sort of stay on the track, to stay on the same path, but a global wind will come along and knock your cursor off the path and sort of introduce a certain element of error into your acquisition of this pattern. So the idea is that you are working with things that have already been created by other people, but that each acquisition is unique in its own way, and that you're not copying verbatim the exact same sculpture that somebody else has already made.
And this is done through an algorithm?
Yeah, it's procedurally based. I've been wrestling with a lot of 3D math the past couple weeks.
And you're a part of a really great project group that you have in digital arts and new media called the Playable Games and Media
Yeah,
Games and Playable Media Center.
There's all sorts of umbrella organizations now. I think, so there's the Center for Games and Playable Media at UCSC, which is through the Jack Baskin School of Engineering. And I'm part of that. More specifically, I'm part of the Expressive Intelligence Studio, where we look at problems of artificial intelligence and how they relate to games, and especially narrative agents. And that lab actually just came out with a game called The Prom. Prom week. I'm sure you've had.
I had almost all 4 of them.
Everyone on. Yeah, we're.
It was great.
It makes for good chat. There's a lot of stuff going on in that game.
So yeah, we talked a lot about. You could go to artistonart.com and gamersongame.com, and you can see all about Prom Week. We talked a lot about it. They were at the. Were you at the GDC last?
No, I wasn't at GDC, and it's my approach to the whole.
GDC being the Games Development Conference.
Yeah. Everybody's been gone this week. All my classes have been in disarray. But it's fun. My background is in English and in creative writing, so to be a part of an artificial intelligence lab, I really spent the first year in the lab sort of just sitting and being quiet and observing and trying to get up to speed on everything that was happening.
On the computing programming side of it.
Because they're doing some really cutting edge stuff.
Oh, yeah, with Michael Mateus is one of the leaders. Is it just Michael?
Michael Mateus, and then Noah Wardrop-Fruin, who's also my thesis chair, and so he's sort of my faculty contact for this project.
That's great. And that's the Expressive Intelligence Studio. And so you're there with Aaron Reed, who's one of the Prom Week guys, who's also a DANM graduate.
Yep.
Who also comes from a writing background, as Noah Wardrop-Fruin as well.
Yeah, I actually met Aaron before I came to UCSC. I was showing work at the at Archive Innovate, which was the 4th international conference of the Electronic Literature Organization in Providence. So I was actually showing work there.
Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah. It was at Brown University. So I was showing work there, and I met Aaron and some of the UCSC crowd there before I even came out here to visit.
You're listening to James Pollack talk about his installation that will be at the DANM MFA exhibition called I've Got Something on Your Mind. And again, it's opening April 28th, runs through the 28th and 29th, and May 3rd through 6th, with the major event, the reception, the big old party, May 4th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. And again, that's at the Digital Arts Research Center. So we've talked about Be There, BeThere.io, the interactive web browser, multi-user, three-dimensional environment where you fill your own unique space that's private with audiovisual sculptures that are acquired from other users. And when you say you're acquiring the sculptures, and yet you're in a way creating them through the algorithm and the... Yeah,
and through your interaction in the process of acquisition, this sort of error, this wind that comes along and blows your cursor off the main path. I say acquire because when you get back to your private space, to this garden, you have a working memory with the last 5 or so sculptures that you've acquired, so you get a chance to sort of like keep an inventory and see what's out there a little bit before you're committed to actually attaching it to your island, which is the more permanent form of holding on to it.
And this will be free?
It's all free. It's all open source even. Ooh. So all my code is on GitHub, and you can come on and contribute and change things if you like. And
Be There was built completely in the cloud with Amazon EC2.
Mm-hmm. Amazon EC2, and then WebGL is an important technology for us. It's OpenGL. It's graphics language in the browser. And we actually use JavaScript for all of our coding, which is great and something that maybe 5 years ago would have been impossible. But there have been a lot of changes. So what this lets us do is program our graphics in JavaScript. Our networking is through a JavaScript library called Node.js and some plugins for that called SocketStream. and we're doing our audio synthesis with a library called AudioLit, and it's all in JavaScript, so it's cool. We can actually like share code between those functions and not have to do a lot of conversion of objects. Everything kind of looks the same.
And so, James Pollack, did you know you were going to be doing all this programming when you started at DANM?
I wanted to do more programming, but I'm in pretty deep on this. Luckily, I've got a little help for this project.
Oh, yeah? Who's helping you? I'm
running a research group through the Expressive Intelligence Studio. So I have 2 undergraduate computer engineers and 1 game designer who I meet with them a couple times a week, and they're contributing to the code and doing things that I can't do.
You're listening to Gamers on Game. So, James, this is the big question that I've been waiting to ask you. The idea of a game. How is this a game? So I acquire my sculptures. Do I get points? Do I get to go to a higher level? What makes this a game?
Dun, dun, dun. That is the question, the $1 million question. I think in a lot of ways it isn't a game. It's game-like, and it certainly uses the language of games. And that's been my approach to a lot of what I've done with the Expressive Intelligence Studio, is to take my own literary background, which is my own strength in art making, and to use this language of computation in games as a sort of an addendum, something to make that better. So I've been upfront with them about, like, I'm here to steal the best stuff that you guys do and to use it to make a more literary art. So in a lot of ways, it isn't a traditional game. There's no leveling up. There's no tasks. There's no ultimate goal. You can play as long as you want or as short as you'd like to play.
So there's no end?
Only when you end, I suppose.
Right. But there's no way of completing the game.
No,
because it's constantly changing.
Yeah, it's more about like an emotional experience or an approach to environmental storytelling than it is to tell a complete narrative, like from point A to point B.
So an environmental storytelling, which is kind of makes you think visual.
It's very visual.
So where did your visuals come from? The Java library.
Yeah, the JavaScript and stuff. A lot of the look will be sort of standardized just because you're working in that tool set. It's like if you're making stuff in Maya, you can only make so many things in a given tool. And so the tool that we're working with is the JavaScript graphics library. But inside of that, I mean, my influences come from a lot of places, a lot of straight visual art. I'm a big fan of Van Gogh and also like conceptual art. I'm really into Damien Hirst and some of the more contemporary artists. But I also, draw inspiration from classic video games. I think
perfect.
It's a place that I go to when the art gets heavy.
Right. James Pollack talking about his work. Be There, this installation. Now, we've been talking about the virtual.
Oh, yes.
We need to talk about the physical now, James Pollack. So we've got... it's an electroplating of organic materials.
Yeah.
All right. Exosomatic. Interrogating exosomatic desire. Whoo! James Pollack, can you tell me how do you interrogate exosomatic desire? What the heck is exosomatic desire?
So, exosomacy is basically the act of storing things outside of yourself. So if you look back in human history, we see those systems first come up like in writing or, cave paintings. But I think you can look at it and extend the concept of exosomacy all the way into whether or not people want to have kids or get involved in politics or build monuments or have buildings named for them at their alma mater. I think that there's a lot of ways we sort of want to outlast our physical existence. Hoarders, yeah. And that's an interesting connection.
Museums?
Yeah, museums. It's a bit of an institutional critique as well. So what I'm doing is taking some floral elements, some sort of shrubbery in the game, in the virtual version, and tying that into the physical world through this process of electroplating organic materials.
Okay, so where am I going to be able to find this in the dark?
So these, the actual MFA setup, there will be a couple of terminals where you can interact with the virtual piece, and then there will be some pedestals with the electroplated pieces. And it's actually kind of a simple process. It's been like lost and found a bunch over the past 100 years or so. I have this book that I got from interlibrary loan about how to bronze baby shoes for pleasure and profit. And it's a similar process. Basically, you take a non-conductive material and you have to make it a conductor. So you take it, you seal it off so it doesn't decompose, and then you paint it with a metallic paint with an airbrush. Then you could submerge it in this solution and turn on the electricity, and the molecules will magically release from the metal anode and go coat whatever it is that you've put in the tank with it. So I'm going to take sort of local flora and to copper plate those, and then to put copper shaders on the virtual items in the virtual world.
Will I be able to do one?
You won't be able to do one. Maybe
but I'll get to admire yours.
If you let me know ahead of time, maybe I can throw something in the tank for you.
You remind me of Beth Stevens' work, one of our professors in the art department who's been bronzing underwear.
Bronzing underwear? I should talk to her.
Porn star underwear, very special underwear, so not just anybody's.
Nice. I'm starting with copper, but I'm interested in other materials.